From the moment Emma stepped into her new apartment, something felt slightly off. The building was modern, the walls freshly painted, and the sun streamed through the windows in a warm glow, but a quiet unease settled over her. On the first night, she caught herself staring into the bathroom mirror and froze. For a fleeting second, her reflection didn't mimic her perfectly. She blinked, and it was back to normal. Dismissing it as exhaustion from the move, she went to bed, yet a nagging feeling lingered in the back of her mind. The next morning, the reflection was the same, but subtle anomalies started to appear, a tilt of the head that was just a fraction too late, a blink that didn't quite match her own. Then came the first messages, written not in words but gestures, tiny movements of the reflection pointing toward the dark corners of her apartment, beckoning her to notice something she couldn't yet see. By the third night, Emma was terrified to be alone. Her reflection no longer stayed confined to the mirror's surface. She would catch glimpses of it in the living room, sometimes standing still, other times hovering just behind her, watching. The most chilling moment came when she looked into a mirror across the hallway, and her reflection was smiling at her, while she herself felt nothing but rising panic. Each night, the reflection grew bolder, tilting, nodding, and sometimes whispering words that sounded faintly like her own voice, urging her to look behind her. The air in the apartment seemed heavier, charged with something invisible, and Emma felt a creeping dread that she was not alone, and that whatever the reflection was, it had intentions she could not yet comprehend. By the fourth night, Emma could no longer sleep. She began setting up small cameras around the apartment, hoping to catch whatever was happening, but every footage came back blank, except for the occasional flicker, a shadow in the corner, or a glint of something moving across the frame. The reflection, however, grew more insistent. In the kitchen mirror, it began pointing at the hallway door, then tapping its fingers slowly against the glass as if counting down. The whispering became louder, more coherent. "Don't look behind you! I'm watching!" Terrified yet drawn in, Emma spent hours pacing her apartment, trying to rationalize what was happening. She realized the reflection's movements were no longer random. They were warnings, directions, subtle signs leading her to something hidden within the apartment. Then one night, she followed its gestures and discovered a tiny, sealed door behind the living room bookcase, one she had never noticed before. It was old, worn, and ominously silent. As she reached for the handle, her reflection's face twisted into an expression of terror, mouthing a single word she could barely read. "Stop!" Emma froze, heart racing, feeling as though the reflection had stepped out of the glass and was pressing its will upon her, warning her of a danger she didn't fully understand. She knew, with a sickening certainty, that something in the apartment wanted her to open that door, but the reflection was trying to protect her, or perhaps deceive her, and she didn't know which. Emma's hand trembled as she slowly opened the small, hidden door behind the bookcase. Beyond it was a narrow, dark staircase spiraling downward, the walls lined with peeling paint and the faint scent of damp decay. Her reflection in the nearby mirror remained still, staring at her with eyes wide in warning, mouth silently screaming, "Turn back!" Against her instincts, she descended the stairs, each creak of the steps echoing in the pitch-black void. At the bottom, she found a room, dusty and filled with old furniture covered in white sheets, and in the center, a cracked mirror much larger than any she had ever seen. And then she saw it, herself, perfectly mirrored, but with subtle differences, a cold, malevolent smile and eyes that glowed faintly in the dim light. The reflection stepped forward, not bound by the glass, its movements perfectly synchronized with her own but twisted, unnatural. Emma stumbled backward, tripping over a chair, and the figure advanced, whispering in her own voice, "It's your turn now." She ran back up the stairs, slamming the door behind her, and collapsed in the living room. The apartment fell silent again, except for the soft flicker in the main mirror, her reflection now smiling, calm, as if nothing had happened. Emma realized, with a deep, chilling dread, that the reflection was no longer just a warning, it was a presence that could step out at any moment, waiting, patient, and relentless. From that night on, every time she looked into any reflective surface, she knew she was being watched, and the sinister truth settled into her bones. Her reflection had plans of its own, and one day, it would try to take her place entirely.